This empty chair represents the addict who died today, not knowing recovery was possible.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of The Empty Chair, the podcast for the addict who did not know recovery was possible. Tonight, I'm here with two amazing individuals who did find recovery, and we're here to share it tonight, which is we're wrapping up Alcohol Awareness Month. If most of you did not know, April is Alcohol Awareness Month. So we've been bringing prevention and education and all types of topics on this because it's important to have. If you did not know already, that 178,000 individuals die each year from excessive alcohol use. And what is excessive alcohol use? Well, I think I'm going to have two men here tonight to share their experience on what their definition is. But I also wanted to let individuals know what a standard drink is. 12 ounces of beer, a 5-ounce glass of wine, or a 1.5 ounce of a shot, which is 80 proof. So that being said, that's what your standard drinks are. Those are done by the Alcohol Association, whatever the thing is called. I'm drawing a blank. But that is actually a standard drink throughout the country. And then what is not excessive drinking, but standard drinking. Standard drinking is no more than 2 drinks a day or 14 drinks per week. So I know for myself, I probably had 14 drinks within 2 hours, which is why I'm sitting here today. Also, some other things about alcohol and alcohol abuse is it causes health issues. And the 3 top are the heart disease, a stroke, and liver disease. Some other things that individuals look at in regards to gathering information in regards to alcoholism would be your family history, your environment, and personality. But that being said, that doesn't mean if you have a family that you come from an alcoholic that you're determined to be an alcoholic, because at some point, like, you control your future based on the information that you have of the fabric of your past. So if you take all that information about what your history is, your personality type, where you're living, and you say you have all those 3 X's against you, you still can make that decision to say, you know what, I'm not going to drink because I have that from my past. And I know a lot of kids right now that are not drinking because they know their past history, their family history, their family tree, and they are breaking the chains of addiction. And it's a beautiful thing to see. One thing I do want to do is I want to give a shout out to Phil and Fran Leahy. As most of you know, Phil Leahy is battling cancer right now, and he is kicking its butt. I think today was his 9th treatment of chemo and radiation, and he just keep him in your prayers. He is so funny. Through this whole process, he has remained so positive, and he is literally kicking its butt. So keep Phil in your prayers. And also Fran, his wife, who is a cancer survivor, this week received a healthy bill of being cancer-free for many years. So God bless them both. We love you guys, and keep them in your prayers. Another thing I want to talk about is on Monday evenings, we do have the Circle of Hope. Circle of Hope is a family support group. If you have a loved one, a friend, family member that is struggling with addiction and you're not sure what to do, come in and join us, 6:30 to 8, that's Sanborn Hall, 90 Hampshire Street, Methuen, Mass. If you need information about it, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Phil, and we will give you the information. And that is the Circle of Hope, Monday evenings at the Methuen Police Department. And speaking of the police department, we do also have a resource night at the beginning, the first Monday of every month. And this coming Monday, I don't know if you two know about it, but there is license plates being made. You know how there's license plates, like people pay money in the state of Massachusetts and they'll get like the New England Patriots, or they get the Bruins or the Wheels. Well, there is a license plate coming out, and it is for overdose awareness. We need 750 individuals to purchase this plate for the state of Massachusetts to make it an official Massachusetts license plate. As of right now, we have 500 applicants that want this plate. And so they're going to be at the police department on the first Monday in May. It could be May 1st, May 4th, but whatever. It's the first Monday of May. They will be at the police department in Methuen at 6:30 to 7 to talk about these license plates. A lot of individuals have lost a loved one, so you can personalize this, have their name put on it, have their date of departure on it, or just keep your own license plate on it. So if you want to learn more about it, I think it's beautiful because it decreases the stigma of addiction. And can you just picture like driving through Boston and just seeing like this overdose awareness, and brings so much awareness and education to it. So it's a sad thing, but it's a beautiful thing, and what a great opportunity. So Kay Scarponi from Team Sharing, she'll be there to present, and she'll have applications with her, and she'll be able to discuss it more. So watch our Facebook page, because I will be putting up a flyer reminding to everyone about this event. And I think, that being said, I don't really know of anything else that's coming up for this month. So I just, I want to hand it over to these two men and hear their experience, strength, and hope, as I know both of them. One, as some of you know, is my godson. Guess which one? And I know his story. I know his history, and he's a miracle. And this other young man I met, I want to say through Gary Huffnagel, right? Or just through St. Basil's?
I think so, yeah.
It was our first introduction.
Yeah.
Or maybe through Corey Huffnagel. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, these are two amazing men who are here to share their experience, strength, and hope, to discuss alcohol awareness. So I'm not sure which one wants to go first, who wants to share their experience, strength, and hope, but welcome to the show. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day, especially Matty, who is a brand new father to a beautiful baby girl.
Congratulations.
And to watch him grow and become a dad, and to see him grow up. He actually grew up. And matured. Right? Yeah, it is weird, but I love every single moment of it. So that being said, seeing them on you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Matty?
All right. Well, my name is Matty. I'm a grateful recovering addict.
Hi, Matty.
And alcoholic, I guess you would say. A drug's a drug's a drug's, a drink's a drink's a drink for me.
Yes.
My clean date is 4/4/17. I actually just celebrated 7 years clean and sober, by the grace of God. It's been a journey. I never really thought my life would be what it is today. Mm-hmm. Recovery still seems to impress me, educate me, and then bring me into uncharted territories, which is just incredible experiences. Being a father and having a fiance and a healthy household and a good relationship and being able to care for others. That is not myself. My disease is fueled by self-centeredness, self-centered fear, and the fact that I could think about others before I think about my own personal needs is evidence that recovery is working in my life. Life is just incredible. It wasn't always that way, though. I remember growing up, I wasn't the confident and outgoing and embracive person that I am today. I was always filled with fears, insecurities, and doubts. I had such a low self-esteem. I was terrified of life on life's terms. I was terrified of what people thought of me. And I was always in a constant state of fear growing up. I have a mother. I have a mother that suffered with substance use and mental health. And I used to always wonder what was going on. And, why is mom going away again? Well, mom's going to get better, or mom's going on vacation, or whatever the case may be. And I was always just, terrified of life, right? And I always had that overwhelming urge to have people embrace me and tell me things are going to be okay. And although my father was in particularly very good at doing that, my father did what a father is supposed to do, and he went to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and came home at 8 o'clock at night, right? So spent a lot of time trapped in my own head, seeking approval from others. And I learned through my recovery that, like, I've always been an addict, right? I've always been an alcoholic. I've always done things obsessively and compulsively. I remember growing up, I'm a 90s baby. So the thing for me was like, pogs, right? Pogs. Right. Yeah. Pogs. But like, I'm going to like break down the disease of addiction in a way that it's just like, it just puts it into so many words, right? So like, I remember growing up, I'd go to work, I'd go to school, and I lived in Everett at the time, and there was like a corner store where you could get pogs from, right? You could get the pogs and the Swedish Fish and the Sour Patch Kids and everything. I gotta ask
Lou, do you know what a pog is?
No, I'm too old.
I didn't think so. So he's not following this. So
I've heard of them, but I don't remember what they were.
I'll tell you what they were. They were the jam. Okay. I'd go to school, and because I was so restless, irritable, and discontent, I needed to bring my mind to a different place, right? And I would obsess about getting out of school, right? I couldn't stay in moment in school. I couldn't focus on what was going on in school. All I was thinking about is copying after school, right? This is literally how my brain has worked before I even put a drug in me. I'm thinking about copying the pog outside of school. I can't wait to get outside of school, and it's the only thing I can focus on. And I was willing to tell any lie, manipulate any person, do anything to get to that pog, right? Mm-hmm. And finally school would come, and like I take this like deep breath, and I'm like, all right, I could go see the pog plug now. And I'd go and I'd get the pog, right? And I'd be like, I'd get it, and I'd be like, that's a good pog, right? And I admire it. I'd be like, what a good pog, right? And I'd go home and I'd use it, right? I keep in mind how I said I'd use it, mm-hmm. right? So I'd be like, that's a good pog. I did my little ritual. I unpack it and I'd use it. And I'd use it so aggressively and so impulsively and so obsessively that it allowed me not to think about mom, dad, life on life's terms, everything else going on within like my whole entire body. And I'd use this pog almost as if this pog was a bag of heroin, mm-hmm. or a drink or a drug, mm-hmm. using it for the same effect that I used heroin or drugs for, or alcohol. And I'd use this pog, and then I'd get done using it, right? And I'd put it down, right? And have at it. As soon as I'd get done using it, the same feelings I woke up in the morning before I went to school with were there instantaneously after I stopped using the pog, right? So like I've always been an addict, right? And that's how like my life went, right? Like I did that with my disease has always manifested into other areas of my life. If it wasn't a pog, it was duck hunt. If it wasn't duck hunt, it was social acceptability, creating people for people. I was the goth kid with the Janko jeans on, the thug with the Dipset belt buckle, the IT kid with like, all of these nerdy games. I was whatever I needed to be to get acceptance and
the great
love.
Chameleon, yes.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I was even a rapper at one time, horrible rapper. Yeah. It was just everything other than myself, and I was just so thirsty for people to embrace me and love me. When I was 14, I lost my mother to her mental health and her disease, and at that point, my life really, really changed. God rest her soul. Through the recovery process, I've been able to make an amends to her. And she's now closer to me than she's ever been. She's closer to me now than what she was when she was here on earth, right? Mm-hmm. Talk about a gifts of recovery, right? Every time I'm of service, every time I help an addict, every time I do something for the right reasons, I know she's there with me. Mm-hmm. So at that point, by 15 years old, I was already actively using, my disease took off like a basic, it normally would. It went from the coke to the perks, to the coke to the oxys to the perks to the molly and the party drugs, and then before you knew it, I was a heroin addict, a full-blown heroin addict, and my life got really, really dark. I'm not going to tell you what my using looked like, right? Create a really messed up story and add 10 to it or 100, and that's what my using looked like. It took me to jails, institutions, and death. Overdosed 8 times, multiple incarcerations, lying, cheating, stealing from my family, burning every bridge, homeless list, sleeping outside in the winter, going to Florida, doing the Delray shuffle, coming back from Florida, going back to Florida. It was just absolutely insanity, and it ran for well over a decade. I actually ended up going back to Florida again one time, and I remember I sat in a meeting, and I don't know why this registered with me, but I sat in a meeting, and there was this old timer. Every time I'd come back, he'd be in that same seat, right? He was always in the same seat, and he knew my name, and he knew I wasn't from Florida because I had a Boston accent, and he said, "Hey, kid, come here," and I was like, "All right," and he was like, "I want to tell you something." And I go, "What is it?" I was an unpleasant kid when I was in treatment.
Not you.
Yeah. I'm like, "What is it? What's up, dude?" He goes, "Let me ask you a question, Matty." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "Why are you here again?" And I go, "Here to get help, dude. I'm here for treatment, obviously." And then he said, "Look, like if I put a pig in a box with lipstick on, what is it when it gets there? And I ship it somewhere, what is it when it gets there?" And I go, "Wait, first off, are you calling me a pig, dude?" So he goes, "Matty, it's a pig in a box with lipstick on." He goes, "What I'm saying to you is it doesn't matter where you go.
Yeah.
You're going to take your emotions, your problems, and your insanity with you wherever you go." He goes, "I'm going to share something with you." And I go, "What?" He goes, "The antidote to your disease is honesty." And it was at that moment where my life kind of took a change. And I went through treatment, and I did things I normally wouldn't do. I started to get honest, like, "Hey, look, like I'm really, really, really broken. And I miss my mother more than anything in the world. And I've been trying to find her through people, places, and things, patterns, and behaviors. I've been unsuccessful in that endeavor. And I've created so many people for people that I don't even know who I actively am." And I'm almost, at that point, I was a grown man. And I go, I'm horrified right now that I'm even saying this. And it was at that point that I was actually able to receive adequate treatment with my clinician and results, right? And after going through treatment as many times as I did, I finally realized that all I had to do was do it right one time. That's the insanity of your disease, right? Like some of these kids will go through treatment hundreds of times, but you hold the keys to your freedom the whole entire time, but you can't access that honesty, because in order to access honesty, you need to access humility, right? And in order to act, humility promotes an open mind, and open mind promotes honesty, right? And like, I didn't understand these things that people would habitually rehearse in meetings and stuff like that, and until I understood it. And I started to use those things, and I went to treatment. I finally came back home, and out of everywhere in the world that I've been to get clean, I was just talking to you guys before, right? I came back home, And I'd like to say when I came home, I stopped using, but I had this curiosity thing. I'm like, I'm going to give it one more whirl. So I used one more time. And once you get some recovery, it really messes up your get high, dude,
Yes,
right? It really screws it up. So I had some solid recovery at that point. And like the emotions I was looking to run away from through a hypodermic needle, I couldn't run. I got high, and all of the emotions that used to be blocked were no longer blocked. I'm like, this is horrible. This is terrible. This is worse than being high. This is just, I cannot do this. So out of everywhere in the world, I got clean on Essex Street in Lynn, Massachusetts at a below average sober house. That was extremely sus. But I got clean because there was also a place called the No Matter What Club. That was a place that held meetings every hour on the hour.
Nice.
Monday through Friday.
They still have it?
Unfortunately, I think it's closed now. But I went there, and I knew what honesty could do to my life. And I went there, and I'd raise my hand, and I was wicked, and like people hated me for a hot minute because I would just go in and I'd share openly, honestly, and just throw it all in the room, dude. And by doing so, I received meetings, and received help, and I started to go through steps and started to see my life improve a little bit, and like little things started to happen, and then people started to listen to me. And then I had people in the recovery community be like, Matty, you have a strong voice. People listen to you when you talk. Like, you have an experience that can help others. And
it's called the gift.
It's 100% a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not mine to keep.
Right.
Amen. So they were like, you should go to the Recovery Coaching Academy and get a recovery coach, and you can help a lot of people. I did that. Yep. I started public speaking for the state of Massachusetts, doing schools. I got a job in treatment. My family started to come back in my life. Yep. My dad started to, not sleep with his phone next to his pillow. Yep. He actually wanted to see me. I'd call him and ask him not ask him for $40. Yep. Life started to get good, and just like I got addicted to the drug, I got addicted to recovery.
Amen.
And the results of recovery. And it's been a super dope journey. Things I never thought I could accomplish, I've accomplished. I've helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. Mm-hmm. Not my doing, my God's doing. Mm-hmm. He just uses me as an instrument to have other people relate, right? Yeah. Not confused about that. And like, my life today is beautiful, and it all came from one thing only that I never used once in my life. I always pointed the finger. It was your fault. It was this situation. How dare you do this to me? My mom did this to me, whatever. Yep. I took responsibility for my recovery, and I got honest about my problems, and my life changed like that. That's awesome. Insane. And I met my godmother. I met you. Yep. I like, when I talk about recovery, I don't like talking about what I do for work. Yeah. Because my recovery is not my job. It's two completely separate things, right? Absolutely. I'm not confused about that. I do meetings, 12-step fellowship, step work in the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous, right? And that's what I do to keep myself on a spiritual path and accountable. But it just so happens that I work in the addiction treatment field, and that is not my recovery, right? So
that's your paycheck. That's what gets you to put a roof over the house and give your girlfriend and children the life that they deserve.
That, and it allows me to give people that opportunity I got in Florida.
Absolutely.
So since I've got clean, I've helped open and develop 5 different treatment centers.
Amen. I've been with you since what was the first one? PAP? Path. What was the
Simple Path.
Simple Path? And then
There's-
from there we went to
From Simple Path, it was the Haven Detox,
The
which is
Haven,
amazing.
then Paramount.
Shout out to Mikey.
yeah, woohoo,
Um,
legs. I'm
yeah.
gonna see him tomorrow.
He's probably wearing something immaculate.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Floods.
And
From
then
there,
it was Paramount.
Paramount.
From Paramount, it was Perennial.
Yep.
And then I just opened my very own treatment facility in Western Massachusetts.
Woo-hoo!
Yes, thank you.
Amen.
Where I live now,
Yes.
which is really weird.
Very.
But God took me where I needed to be. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's interesting. They call subs grinders, and they wear Yankees hats and not Red Sox hats.
Ooh, I'd be flipping them off their head. I'd be in fist fights
But
on that one.
The community is so great,
Yep.
and people forget that that's also a part of Massachusetts.
Yep.
That doesn't have a lot of resources. So after doing a lot of work in this area,
Yep.
he's brought me to, it's kind of like, I'm bringing you back into the pit of fire.
Yeah.
He brought me to a needed area,
Yep.
and
it is needed out there, that's for sure. And you're also near an amazing church, Crossroads in, is it Fitz? What's the town that it's in?
I'm not sure. So I live in Ludlow because
Right.
my wife is Portuguese.
Yes.
So that's a big, I live in Ludlow.
Yep.
And
I know the church is next to Ludlow because when I take the exit, it's near Ludlow.
it's so amazing.
Yes.
Churches. It's a really awesome part of the state.
Yep. But listening to your story, you had family history, your environment, and your personality, which led you to addiction.
100%.
And then last month, I went to a young people's conference in AA, and I can't believe like how young these kids are getting life and recovery. And I think would our lives have been different? Would we have known anything of that? Yet here we only knew of addiction. And when you have that personality, gregarious freaking personality of, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What am I doing? How am I? Oh, jump off of this, do that. Like just that whole experience. Like this is what equals
It's
and adds up
awesome.
to it.
It's more socially acceptable now
Yes.
because people like yourself and people in the community that have been doing it for a long time
Yes.
have made recovery a good thing
Amen.
rather than a negative
That's
thing.
right. That's right.
People have done so many,
There used to
positive
be
things.
shame attached to it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, don't tell people you're in recovery. Like,
Yeah.
don't tell people you don't drink.
Now it's the opposite. Now
No
it's like
kidding.
I'm in recovery.
Amen. Yes.
It's awesome.
Well, thank you very much for sharing with us right now. We're going to hand it over to Corey. And so nice to have you here on our show.
Thank
And
you.
looking forward to seeing, because I've never heard your story. I do know that we share things in common, other than addiction, we have other things in common.
Sure. Yeah.
The Hill.
Yeah.
And so welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on Alcohol Awareness Month. And to me, it's addiction awareness. Like Matty said, a drug is a drug is a drug. So
Sure.
welcome. And what do you have for our audience this evening? Before we go, so Matty, my best friend Kathy, you were in her stepson's sober house in Lynn. His name's Peter.
Oh, I was in Rob's. I was in Rob Demio's house.
Get the funk out.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kath, close to it, but there you go. All right. So Corey, back to you.
Thank you. So if you took a look at my childhood and when I was growing up, there is nothing there that would indicate why I turned out to be a drug addict. When I grew up, I had a loving family. I was very blessed with everything that I ever needed and wanted. I was spoiled rotten. And I was the type of kid that pretty much could become friends with anybody. I had a million friends growing up. I still do. I'm very blessed. But I was also exposed to drugs and alcohol at a young age. I think it was middle school, the first time I smoked weed, and then obviously sneaking alcohol out of parents' liquor cabinet and things like that. So I got exposed to things at a very young age.
Who exposed you? How did you get exposed to it?
So just with, as far as like the weed, right?
Yeah.
It was just people had older brothers, older cousins, things like that. And we had access to it. You know, a lot of my friends, all their parents like to drink. My parents weren't big drinkers. They actually barely drink at all. So it was always when I would go to a friend's house, right? And it was like, oh, you know, that's what we're gonna do tonight. So I got exposed really young. And then when I went off to high school, I went to an all boys Catholic high school, right? So teenage boys, right? Just scheming every single day, Monday through Friday. And that's where I got exposed to more drugs. Between, you know, 14 and 16, I had tried some harder drugs. By the grace of God, I wasn't grabbed by them back then. And my using in high school mostly looked like, you know, weekend warrior type of stuff. I was an athlete, a multi-sport athlete in high school, and we would party on the weekends. Whoever's parents were away that weekend, just the house flooded with kids, right? It was one of those type of deals. And, you know, I would be brought home by my friends, dropped off my parents' front steps. You know, my mom was like, oh my God, you guys are idiots, right? But just boys will be boys, teenage boys, right? It wasn't problematic. I did all the right things, right? I had a part-time job, athlete, decent grades. So, you know, from my parents' perspective, it was just I was being a kid, right? I went off to college, and then this is when things just took a complete turn. I stayed local. I went to college on the South Shore. I was a collegiate athlete, but I was using drugs and alcohol every single day. I was smoking weed pretty much from the moment I woke up till the moment I went to sleep. We drank. If it wasn't every day, it was almost every day, right? Started to use cocaine more frequently. And the party stuff. Ecstasy more often. And this is around the time when Percocets were becoming really big. The OxyContin was phasing out and the Percocets were coming up. And I had dabbled in the Percocet. But again, right, it didn't grab me for whatever reason back then. But I also started to get arrested, started to get in trouble. I was banned from campus at a certain point. But I looked at that. My disease, right, was already working completely because all these consequences led to more fun. And what I mean by that is I'm banned from campus, but now I can rent a house off campus with a few buddies, and now we're the party house. Right. So then I took on that whole persona of that guy, right? Along with my roommates. And it was fun. It was fun back then. Even though I got a DUI, even though I got, you know, PC'd a bunch of times, it was fun. It was partying. Needless to say, I barely made it out of school. It was one of those things where they just kind of pushed me through at the end just to get me out of here. And I came home, and my party lifestyle was front and center. I had a job, but I liked going out almost every night of the week. I was smoking weed still like crazy, doing coke all the time, ecstasy. And like I said, I had taken on this persona, right, of a party, somebody who liked to party, but also I like to make things happen, right? And I had this little side hustle going, and someone owed me a little bit of money, and the way that they paid me was in Percocet. And up until that point, Percocet had never caused a problem, right? I grew up on the North Shore. So many people struggled with opiate addiction, but for me, I was like, I don't have to worry about this. I've done it before. It's fine. So I took the bag of pills that night. I went home, and I sniffed the pill. and you know,
because that's how we take them as prescribed.
Of course. That's what it says on the bottle when they give it to you. And that pill opened up doors that I couldn't close for a long time. I never turned back from opiates after that point. And I was about 21 years old, 22 years old. And it quickly went from, one a day to 10, 15, 20 Percocets a day. again, like on the surface, I was
Do your parents know at this time this is how bad you are?
No, they thought I was just like out of control partying,
Okay.
just irresponsible, immature, right? But they had no idea. I think it took them a few years to really recognize that there was a problem.
Okay.
You know, obviously those are a lot of pills every day.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Percocet. And they dried up.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get them. And I was sick, right? But at that time, I was so naive. I was like, I don't have a problem. I'm fine. And then someone said to me, they're like, hey, you're dope sick. And I was like, no way. And I was like, well, can you get me any perks, right? If I'm kicking, can you get me something? They're like, no, there's none around. But I have this. And it was heroin.
Jesus. Was it heroin or fentanyl?
It was heroin back then.
Okay.
Yeah, this is like 2013,
Okay.
I think. And I was like, no. And as the day went on, I was like, I'm just so sick. I was like, just give me a little bit. And I did the heroin, and that was it. That was it. Never done a perk after that.
Yep.
And you know, things started to slowly unwind. My life became more unmanageable. Consequences started to happen. I wasn't holding down a job. I couldn't emotionally regulate by any means. And people started to notice things, right? My family started to notice, but they did not know what to do. They didn't know how to support me. They didn't know exactly how to approach me. I mean, I was a monster. Like if you called me out on anything, I just blew up. And that's part of the reason I do what I do today, right? But I'll get into that in a second. And then I sank into full-blown addiction, right? Not that I wasn't before, but this is like in the sense of what you think of. And, you know, my daily using looked like heroin, cocaine, weed all day long, ecstasy on most days, just a cocktail of drugs every single day. You know, there are a few very vivid moments in my active addiction that are forever burned into my memory because most of it is very blurry. And one of them, I was walking into work one day, and they had these big glass windows on the first floor, and I'm walking up, and I'm sick, and I see myself, and I didn't even recognize myself.
Wow.
And I was like, "Whoa, dude!" Like who's that? Yeah, I was like, "Oh man, man, tough paper route." Right? Like it's time to make a change. And I was at this crossroads where I was like, I'm either never going to stop. Right. Or I need to just tough through this. Detox treatment, just like not even a thought in my mind. And I tried to fight that thought for a few hours. And on lunch that day, I went and got high. Wow. And that was, again, off and running for a long time. Active addiction for me, I was in pain the whole time, right? It was really painful.
Physical or mental?
Well, physical, obviously, but mental and emotional pain. I was in emotional pain the whole time. Because I knew what was happening to me. You know, I'm very self-aware, and I know when you're in active addiction, you're typically not. But for me, I knew what was happening. I knew I was self-destructing. The world was just flying by me and I was just stuck. But in all that pain, the only thing I could find relief in just continued the pain, because the thought of pulling myself out of that hole was just unfathomable. Like it was just impossible to me. So I just kept moving forward and moving forward, right? Years go on of using like that, just more bad stuff's happening. And I really didn't start seeking treatment until like the last year and a half. But that last year and a half was just in and out, right? Because I couldn't, everybody knew it, but I was never going to confirm it. right? Like you could, people found drugs on me. My friends actually cornered me at a house party in a basement. And the person who led it, unfortunately, is a good friend of mine who's no longer with us. But my friends tried to be like, you need, like, what are you doing? And I was like, what? I was like, I'm fine. I'm like, it's you guys. It's not me.
Yes.
I'm like, this is, you guys got all confused.
Yep.
And yeah, so it was just in and out, in and out, in and out. And I was going to state facilities because there wasn't, it's not like it is now.
No.
Right? The treatment landscape in Massachusetts and New England is beautiful now.
Yeah.
Wasn't like that back then.
No.
So I was going to state facilities, you know, the good old Danvers and Tewksbury cab, right? Fine establishments. And yeah, and I couldn't keep it together. I would go to AA meetings and I would sit in a seat and just wait for the miracle to happen. Just sit there. Maybe someone's going to say something and like a magic wand's going to hit me at some point and like, I'm good to go. Right. And it just never happened. But I also put no effort into it. Essentially, like my perspective was like, I just want everyone to be okay with where I'm at and meet me where I'm at without having to meet in the middle, if that makes sense.
Oh, of
right?
course.
Kicked out of sober houses for using, things like that. And, you know, it brought me to my last little stretch. I was overdosing all the time. Yeah, frequently overdosing. You know, I'm very lucky to be here. And again, another one of those vivid memories that I talked about earlier. And I was getting high in a basement in Lynn, where you ended up getting sober, right? And I was sitting there and I had, you know, everything in front of me.
You were probably getting high in my sober house.
Probably. And, you know, I had the drugs laid out. I was preparing everything. And I looked down and I remember thinking to myself, I am going to die. And I was fine with it. I was completely okay with it. I was prepared to die. I wasn't suicidal or anything like that, but I was like, it's going to happen. So let's just run it. Right. Let's get it over with. And I kept using, and I went on for a few more weeks, more overdosing, car accidents, cause I was high. And then finally it was a Saturday morning. I was in my mom's house and I woke up in the morning and I see the ceiling, and it was like the first feeling of contentment I ever had.
Wow. And
I was like, I think I'm done.
Amen.
I think I'm done. But there's a caveat to this. I was sick. I was super sick.
Yeah.
So I was like, I have to go get high to like pack my stuff and get to treatment.
Yep.
And I went and got high and overdosed again.
Wow. And
then I went to detox. And that was October 22nd, 2017 was the last time I ever walked into detox.
Amen.
Right. And it was really hard because I wanted to be done. I had no faith in myself and no confidence that I could actually do it, because up until that point in my life, I had ruined everything and failed at everything, and I've never accomplished a thing.
You stayed alive, and that's a huge accomplishment.
I stayed. God kept me alive.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that can separate me or stand in between me and heroin is God.
Amen.
Right.
Amen.
And eventually, right, I had no idea where I was going to go. And I would call, I was in the Tewksbury TSS on the payphone, and I called my mom just to check in. I don't know why she still answered the phone at this point. And she said, hey, can you call these guys? Like, here's the guy's number. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I called the guy, and he owned a 12-step sober house. And he's like, yeah, I'll take you tomorrow. And I went there, and I got fully invested in the steps, because in my mind, I was like, I don't care if I die, right? Like, I'm fine with dying. So if this fails, then like the same plan is still a go, right? And I hit the step work openly, honestly, and to the best of my ability. Awesome. And I've done steps one time, right? I remember like the 8 notebooks. That thing was loaded, loaded. And, you know, and I've been sober since.
Yeah. What house did you go through?
Barry's house.
Awesome.
And Beverly.
Awesome.
Yep. And those guys saved my life,
Amen.
right? Because not only did they help take me through the steps, but they taught me how to be a man.
Amen.
Right. And what I mean by that is not like the bravado, right?
Yep.
But like they taught me life skills.
Yep.
Right. And they taught me the consistency and grind that it takes to succeed at anything in life.
Right.
Right. So, and that's what kept me sober. It was every day. It was the same thing over and over again. Walk a mile to work, work hard all day long, walk a mile home, open my notebook, do 10-step inventory, be out there making amends, right? All this stuff. And it stuck, right? Forever grateful to that, right? But again, it's not me, it's God, right?
Yes.
And and I have an amazing life today.
Tell us about it. What do you have?
So, what don't I have? Right? Like I have so much. Those guys, right? Yeah, you know them probably.
Mm-hmm.
They grabbed me about 2 years into maybe 3, I don't know, into my recovery. And they said, hey, we think that you would be good at this. Would you be willing to give it a try? Yep. And they trained me to become an interventionist.
Yep.
Michael. Yep. So Mike, he is my mentor. He taught me everything.
I went through it as well with him.
Yep. It's a great course.
Were you in my class?
I know, because I took mine in a different state.
Okay.
So I flew down with them and all
nice.
That stuff. Yeah, a little mini vacation.
Yep.
And shortly after I took the course, I started my own private practice, which is threefold recovery. I still operate it today.
Nice.
Working with families and doing interventions, family work, family coaching, all that stuff.
Awesome.
And I did that for a couple of years, and the Mayflower guys I go way back with, and it just made sense, right? I was working with families who were in Mayflower shortly after they opened, and they brought me into Mayflower, and now we have this amazing program with a family intervention program to go with it that's so unique and one of its kind that it's not offered anywhere else, right? And we've had a lot of success with it. A lot of families are getting healthier, right? They're having boundaries. They're taking their lives back. Their mental, emotional, physical health are thriving, right? And all my real friends are still in my life, right?
Amen.
They distance themselves as they should, right? But they're back in my life. My family, I think, is very proud of me, right?
Yes,
and obviously, right, like I gave my parents a grandson, so like that slate has been wiped completely clean. So I got a little boy, he's 3 years old. And that's right, that I have made every mistake that I could make in life, right? And I've messed up everything, but I'm never gonna mess up being a dad.
Amen.
Right, that's like the number one thing.
Amen. Maddie, identifying over there.
Oh, I'm locked in.
Yeah.
It's wild. Becoming a dad is the most insane thing.
Life changing.
And like
instantaneously.
And it sounds like cliche to say that, but then like you hold this baby and you're like, oh my goodness, right? This is just like, who gave me a kid? Right.
So your whole perspective in a second
just changes instantaneously.
And it's where I saw him totally become a man.
Yes.
Like he was quasi-manish, right? Dating. And it's where I totally just saw everything shift for him. And when I witnessed him looking at his baby and seeing how much love he has, like that broke every freaking piece of whatever was broken in you. That has now been healed by looking at the miracle that you have created.
Every void that you have in your life is completely filled. Completely filled.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
It is.
It really is.
It is.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So tell us, I know Top Seal. I loved him. Do you know Ed C and Mike from Mike at all? Ed Chiacharilla. I can never say.
Yeah.
Do you know him?
Yep.
And his buddy Mike?
Yeah.
Wow, those are like two of my favorite people in the whole world. So I do, I'm with Ed every other Wednesday.
Okay, yeah.
We have a group that meets together, and he's a huge asset and an amazing person in my life that I'm blessed to have.
Yeah.
And
good
Mike
people.
as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a small freaking world.
It is. The
Yes.
North Shore recovery, the North Shore in general, and
Yep.
like Eastern Massachusetts
Yep.
is like this big.
Right.
It's tiny.
You know?
Yeah.
You know what they don't have in Western Massachusetts is three-ways. They don't have super beefs.
Wow,
Get
that's
out
a
of
shame
town.
because they have them in Florida now, but they don't even have them in.
It's depressing.
That is so funny.
Yeah, it's
So,
not.
so
It's
funny.
disappointing, depressing.
So we have some 10 minutes left. I think you guys shared a lot about addiction, recovery. It can happen to anyone. If we have individuals listening tonight and they're using and they're struggling, like what would be some advice you would tell them?
I think it's really important to always have hope, right? And that seems really difficult, but when you walk around hopeless and just giving up, parts of yourself start to diminish.
Okay.
Right. So you always have hope. There's always something that, right, as families, right, you guys can always get well.
Amen. What about you? What would you say?
I would say don't disqualify yourself and think that you're not worth it or not capable.
Yep.
Please remember that, your process is your process.
Yes.
So if it's your first time or your 57th time,
Yep.
you're right where you're supposed to be. You just need to continue to keep fighting.
Amen. And I think for me, I mentioned this at the Young People's Conference about, like, I didn't want to be an alcoholic. I didn't want to be an addict. And they kept on saying, like, go to those meetings. And I'm like, I don't want to. But I did, because I didn't want to use. I didn't want someone out on the streets to win a $50 bet that I was going to relapse. So I stayed sober because of that. I didn't want that to happen. And what I tell people is just try, like, I wasn't into like the steps or the program, but I was into the fellowship. I fell in love with the people that were like-minded like me, that were telling the most batshit crazy freaking stories that only we laugh at.
Sure.
Because if you tell it to a normie,
they're
like,
going to be mortified.
Mortified? What part of that did you think was funny?
Yeah.
And we're rolling because we can identify. So if you're out there and thinking about, like, should I try recovery and I don't want to go to those meetings, I went and I fell in love with the fellowship. And by falling in love with the fellowship, which was the individuals that were there, I ended up starting to like myself, which then started to lead me to do the work to remain sober and to heal, because I was nothing but a broken mess. And I was just carrying myself around as a broken mess, and I was breaking people along the way. Like alcoholism, addiction, it runs the same as narcissism. Like, we totally make you think it's your fault, and we will convince you it's your fault.
Yeah.
So, like, to get sober and to lose the narcissistic personality, that takes a lot of work, because it's so ingrained in the way that we're wired and the way that we think. And these are the conversations that I think people need to be having as well. Like, like narcissism, I think, has been the new word since freaking COVID. You're narcissistic. You're narcissistic. And it's like, actually I am, and I can be if I don't do my work, and that's what this is all about. So I think being an alcoholic, like, I always look at families and I say, do you honestly think your loved one wants to be freaking tormenting you and breaking your heart as bad as they do? Like, there's not 1 ounce of us that wants to.
Yeah.
But when you're stuck in addiction and you can't find a way out, it's so hard what we do to the family. So I applaud you for working with families. Phil and Fran do an amazing job with families that walk into the police department in need of help. And if they are uncomfortable and they can't come to the police department, Phil and Fran will see them at their house to have coffee and to, like, do an icebreaker. They really are. So, Matty, Kathy is asking, what is a POG? So, Kath, I'm going to ask you to Google a POG, and why don't you tell us what a POG is? It's a card, right?
It's like a circle card, and they had all kinds of different ones. And then there was the breaker, which was the you're supposed to, like, it's a game. You would take the big one
Yeah.
and throw it at the little ones and
Yeah.
see which ones fell out. And
Yeah.
it's like a whole thing.
Right.
Um,
So Google it, Breenstar, and you will laugh when you see what a pog is. It was a game. And I'm trying to think like what we would have. So she used to scream at worms and put them into shock and think it was funny. Like that was her game. We were
very different.
Yeah, yes, because caterpillars. We would be around my pool and she would just go up to it, like right up to this pen and go, ah! And the thing would shake and she would laugh for hours. Like, I don't know if that was her sign that she was going to be an alcoholic or an addict, but those were the things that we did. And then we would do stupid things like, she's probably laughing hysterically. Like the right? Hitchhiking. One of us would put our thumb out and there would be like 10 of us behind the wall and the person would pull over. We would like jump in the car, pummel the driver, and then like take off, and just crazy, bizarre things that you can't do now.
No, you can't
No,
do those.
No, you
can't
can't
do-
do that today.
I won't even, I stopped picking up hitchhikers like maybe within the past year, like I used to. I used to pick them up. I used to stop on the highway and my husband would freak out. My parents would be like, don't tell us that shit. But yeah, times are different. So
Very
they really are. But listen, alcohol awareness, it's not just this month. It's every single day. You need to be aware of what you're doing, what you're putting into your system. You need to know there's a beautiful life out there without alcohol. I used to go to meetings and raise my hand and say, like, how can I have a glass of wine with Prince spaghetti on Wednesdays? And they'd be like, just keep coming, kid. And eventually my my thinking changed, and I no longer thought like that. So I, like you guys, chase the recovery as well. And even my length of sobriety, I am still in recovery. I work in the field, but that is not my meetings. And I still do go to meetings. I still do the work. I do slack on the 10-step inventory at night because I'm tired. However, I will do a bunch like when I'm freaking ready to snap, and then I'll call my sponsor and I'll read it with her just because it's not worth it.
Yep.
So what's beautiful about this disease of alcoholism and addiction is there's an amazing way out where it doesn't cost you anything. It already costs you your soul. So like, come join us for free. And be with men and women. You might want to put $1 or $2 in a basket when it goes around, and that's it. But for myself, like therapy, medication, hospitalization, none of that gave me the fulfillment of what I received in Alcoholics Anonymous, because that's where I was introduced to God, and that is where my whole life forever changed. I went from hating God more than anything else in this world to trying to commit suicide to get to heaven, to kill God so that you folks down here wouldn't hurt because he was such a mean God, to falling on my hands and knees saying, if you're real, not only do you have to make me stop drinking, you need to show me how to live. And 36 years later, I'm still living because of that moment.
Amen.
So it's a pretty powerful thing. You two are living proof that this program does work, that you can change. You are no longer the men that you used to be. Matty had the history, the environment, the personality. You didn't come from a family of. So it's just proof that this can happen to anyone. And when I talk to kids, one of the important things is like, they'll all say, oh, my family does this. My family, like, it's going to happen to me.
Sure.
And I'm like, give me your hands. Like, here, this is your life. You can control the decision you make today. Don't get to where you're not able to make that decision. Like, take control now. And that's what I try to instill in individuals. Like, you actually have the brains right now to make a decision. Which one do you want to be? Do you want to roll the dice? Or do you want to just embrace life without drugs and alcohol? So last 2 minutes, why don't you tell us a little bit about your facility? How does one find it? What's the website? What's a phone number?
Sure. So we are located in Northampton, Massachusetts.
Woohoo! I told my nieces to apply there. They live out there.
Do they?
Yeah.
Well, tell them to give them my number.
I will.
All right.
Okay.
Northampton, Massachusetts, and Power Health Group. We are a fully licensed partial and day treatment program through BSAS. We operate from the hours of 9 o'clock in the morning till 3:30 in the afternoon. And then we also have nighttime IOP as well. And
so if you say IOP, just in case someone's listening, what is IOP?
Intensive outpatient.
Thank you very much.
We also are right around the corner from being fully licensed through the Department of Mental Health for mental health primary as well.
Amen. That's needed.
So needed. So we will have a substance license and a mental health license completely separate.
Oh.
We want to help everybody. And like I said, it's Empower Health Group, and you can find us at empowerhg.com. You can type in my name on the internet, Matty O'Malley. You'll be able to find me fairly easily.
Mostly his arrests, and then if you scroll down, you'll see a picture of him.
Fun fact is
I know this fact.
I am no longer able to be pulled up in any type of
Amen.
database because I had my record expunged.
Amen.
Due to recovery.
Yes.
Which is so awesome.
Nice.
So yeah, you can find me at empowerhg.com, at Northampton, on Google, on Instagram, on LinkedIn,
or call me,
or Facebook, or call Cole.
Yes.
And if it's something you're interested in.
And Corey, give a shout out to Mayflower. How does one get involved and in touch with that?
Yeah, so Mayflower is a 48-bed residential inpatient facility in Wilmington, Massachusetts. We have 16 detox beds and 32 clinical stabilization residential beds. It's a beautiful facility. It's built from the ground up, custom designed to make clients, thank you, as comfortable as possible, make it feel like home. There's detox and clinical stabilization, which is dual diagnosis treatment and also addresses the thoughts, feelings, and emotions around substance use. We have art therapy, music therapy, yoga and meditation therapy. The amenities of the place are endless.
Right? I agree. It's one of my favorite places.
Yep. And most importantly, right, the one-of-a-kind family intervention program.
Amen.
Yep.
Awesome.
So thank you for tuning in tonight. Again, thank you for this. For those who have participated in Alcohol Awareness Month, thank you for all those that work in the field to bring awareness to alcoholism and addiction. Thank you to my partner in crime behind the mirror over there, Lou. I love you to pieces. It's good to be back in the seat. And the only thing I'm going to continue to ask is that if you can keep Phil Leahy in your prayers during his time of battling and kicking cancer's butt, because I know he's going to be okay, and just send him those positive thoughts. So we'll see you folks next month. Next month is Mental Health Month, and I do have a great show lined up to see y'all then. Until then, if you need help, please reach out. You're not alone. And if no one told you today they loved you, I love you. Good night and God bless.